folks, Danny here at PARTAY. So tonight I have Miss Kelly with me. She's going to be painting a screen for us. So I have a few things that I want to talk about first, specifically about the surface, and then we'll talk about the actual mix. This surface, it's hard to tell because it's got a sheen to it. I coated it with a white gloss. That's just the only white I have in the house, so I use what I have. But it's got a lot of texture. I just put enough. If you can make it out there, there's little places in it, right? So I just put enough on here to give you an example because I'm going to use this as a little bit of a worst case scenario. So you'll also notice that there's texture on here because of the roller that I used, and this is really thick, you know, gloppy paint. You're used to hearing the whenever people are rolling it, right? So the formula is not going to be like that. You will see how it works. But I just wanted to tell you that if we have a surface that has a good bit of texture on it, and you'll be able to pick up that texture whenever we do our display. And the reason for that is because this formula acts as a skin. It's very thin. You're going to do very thin layers. You're going to do 4 thin layers, and it's all going to be okay. I promise you. You're going to see your first roll is going to be the ugliest paint job you've ever done probably in your life. So don't worry about it. That's good. That's fine. You'll see as we go through this that this is not about being a master. This formula has been designed to make it very easy for you to do, where you pretty much have to try to screw it up, maybe just take and do some finger painting in there. I can't guarantee against that, but this should be fairly easy. All right. So first things you'll want to remember is when you open up the product, you want to stir it very well, okay? And what you want to do is you want to make sure you stir the bottom. Almost I do mine in a checkered pattern. I kind of go one direction from side to side and then, you know, the other way side to side. And I'll do that a few times and then make sure that you get around your edges so that you don't have stuff that's just stuck to the edges. Now, this over time, probably by the time you would receive it, it's going to look like it does when we mix it. But over time, you will have some separation there that could occur, and that's going to be because we use a combination of distilled water with something we designed here. The polymers in it are heavier. It's going to fall to the bottom over time. So your water will kind of rise to the top and separate. That water is really only there as a delivery vehicle for the product because it's going to evaporate. What Kelly's going to do is I'm going to instruct her on how to get started. And the way that we're going to get started is think of this as your full screen. I usually break mine into thirds. So you would have 3 areas. There's actually 2 kind of divots in this thing. You can see one over here and then the one here. But we'll break it into thirds. What I usually do is run, for this size panel, we're just going to run like a little 2-inch. If I'm doing a full screen, I'm probably going to run about a 3 to 4 inch, maybe 3 inch, start with 3. You can always pour a little more if you want to do it that way. You can use a rolling pan. The thing is I wouldn't use more in a rolling pan than what you plan to do in one coating, and I'll explain that as we go. Okay, so the easiest thing to do is Kelly right now, I've instructed her, she's going to run about a 2-inch wide strip from the center of the first one to the center of the third one. There you go. Just keep going. There you go. Nice, nice, nice. Okay. Now just, you can actually take your brush and brush that up the side if that happens, where you have a little roll on the container. There you go. Nice. Now you just want to go ahead and get to rolling. And what you want to do, the goal here is to cover the surface. You're not trying to get a pretty roll like you're rolling a wall in your house or something. You just want to, first of all, what you want to do is try to get your roller saturated with the material. Rolling it back and forth, you want to saturate your roller with the material.
Like this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Y'all, I have not done this. So.
But now you want to start rolling it, like rolling that out, because what you see is you've got little pieces. There you go. You're just trying to get coverage, a good even coverage. It's not going to look even as far as color, but you want the whole surface to be wet. It's as easy as that. Just basically, but Try not to roll it off. I usually roll side to side.
I got you. Get him instructing me. Clearly, I'm not a painter. Not even.
You're doing
house.
absolutely perfect.
All right.
Once again, you're not trying to get a pretty roll at all. What you're trying to do is get the material on the surface. All right, see, now you can start applying just a little bit of pressure, going either side to side or up and down. Just apply a little bit more pressure. Yeah, be easy with it. You want to roll your roller. There you go.
Yeah, not just.
Yeah, not just slide it.
Gotcha.
All right. Now you see how that's starting to coat across the screen now?
I do.
All right. And that's really all you're wanting to do is just make sure you get a good even coat. All right, now go back to this side and just lightly hold your roller. Just let the weight of the roller roll it, and you just roll up. Go take your roller and put it about halfway on the line you just made.
Like right here? Okay.
And just do that again. Let the weight of the roller do that over and over across your surface. Now the reason we're doing this is because I want to show you it's very easy. It's just a technique, right? But also this will help you optimize. That's it. You're done. This will help you optimize the surface. So the surface is going to have less texture. It's going to be very fine and give you a really nice image. So that's it. It was just coat the surface, do your light roll. All the way across, and then now we're going to let it set for maybe 2 to 3 minutes just because this starts to try to level set itself. We're going to let it set for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're going to put it on the on our fan. Excuse me. We're going to put it on the fan, and we'll be back in just a few. Okay. All right, so we're back. Now, one thing that I did forget to mention in the first coat was when you finish, rinse out your roller. Now, what I do is usually that's the reason I use so little material. That way, there's not really a lot to rinse out of your roller. So you don't waste a lot of material, but you start with a fresh roller for this coat. So this time, we're going to do the exact same thing we did last time. And while Kelly's rolling it, I'll talk a little about the product itself and what it's designed and engineered to do for you. It can be hard to hold that spoon, can't it? So you just get used to it. Very nice. And she's just going to repeat the same thing that happened last time. You just try to move this around, get your roller getting wet, just kind of going back and forth across. As if you just go across your panel there, you'll saturate the roller, and then you're just going to try to make sure that you move the material around to coat the full screen. So while Kelly's rolling here and getting that done, see, I'm just going to cut you loose on your own.
Good luck with that.
All right, folks, so while Kelly's doing her thing, I'm going to do a little narration here. So what you want to avoid is overworking this. That's the reason I'm being so thorough in the explanation, because the tendency for people is to try to roll this as a paint, where you're trying to get color coverage that looks the same from one roll to the next roll. You don't need to worry about that with this. This is going to happen naturally as you do your layers. Okay, what you're trying to do is, one, get coverage on the surface. Two, and when I say coverage, just get the surface wet with the material. Go back. Step two, you're going to add a little bit of pressure like she's doing now, just rolling one direction. It really shouldn't even be going back and forth. Just one direction is easy enough. You just add slight pressure, and what you'll see is that'll start to colorize the surface. And then you're going to go back and do the same thing, but with no pressure, just letting the roller do its thing, which is going to give you a very refined, low texture surface. It's that simple. This material has been designed to make it easy for you, and so that whoever creates a screen, as long as you follow the instructions, it's going to come out the same regardless if Tom in Oklahoma does it or, Josie in the UK does it. It doesn't matter, right? It should come out the same, and that's the reason that we've designed it to do this. The material itself it's not fully self-leveling, at least not at that thickness. It's not going to be fully self-leveling, but you do want to let it set for 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but you're going to want to let it set for 2 or 3 minutes so it can self-level, and then you throw the fan on it, let it dry, do its thing, and as soon as it's dry, now dry is dry. Okay, it shouldn't be tacky, so you want to make sure that it's not tacky. As a matter of fact, when you feel the surface, especially if you've had it on a fan, it's probably going to be a cool surface, but you just feel, and as long as it feels nice and smooth, not tacky at all, you're ready to go for the next coat. So just want to make sure folks understand, do not overwork the product. It doesn't need to be. Once again, not a paint, not meant to coat like a paint or behave like a paint. All right, guys, Danny back. So I want to take a moment while Kelly's doing her thing to give you an idea of the surface. So now you can see, looking at this, you can see, okay, there's a line here, and there's a line here, and there's a line here, but we're not through yet, right? So don't worry about that. You can see the little specks in there where you can still see through to the substrate. So don't worry about that. What you'll notice is that we're starting to get a uniform coat. Now this here, this is a crease in the, you can see in the panel that we're doing, there's some inconsistencies in the panel. But once again, worst case scenario, we're using just an old cheap panel here that's got creases and little divots in it, things like that. But looking at the surface, this is going to start to shape up in our third roll. All right, so we'll get Kelly in here in just a second and get started back. All right, so you want to stir it up again. We cleaned our roller. Very little material came out of it this time, so you did a good job. Not using too much last time. All right.
Ready?
Yep. There you go. Leave what's left in there. I'm just going to roll that out. Remember to move your material first. So start all the material that's in the center.
Yep.
You want to make sure you start moving it out. So you have a little, so if you have a little piece of your roller or anything like that that comes off, you see a speck of something, just take it off with your finger and go back over it. It'll cover really easy. All right, so now you want to do your light roll.
Okay.
Because you were putting pressure over some of that. So you just want to make sure that you always do this last, very light, no pressure on the roller. Just let the weight of the roller do it. All you're doing is just moving the roller. So there's coat 3. It may end up being our last coat. I know I said 4. We'll take a look at the end of this and see if we need a 4th coat. Sometimes I'll go ahead and do a 4th coat anyway. It's good to have 4 coats because this is an optical layering system. Okay, so you're building something here. Specifically, it's made for it to have essentially 4 coats. So we'll probably come back and do our little 4th coat on it, but for the most part, we're going to just let this set for a second, come back. We'll put it in front of the fan there, let it dry, and then we'll be back. All right, guys, we're back, and so we're going for the 4th and final coat. There you go. All right, so that's our last coat. We're going to let that set for just a second, and then we're going to put that in front of the fan, and we should be good to test it out in the room. So we'll be back on display.